So with Wimbledon only 24 hours away, we're going to go through the predictions that I'm going to have for Wimbledon. Not just the winners, but also all the other categories that we went through in the last video for the French Open. Let's see how we go with these predictions for Wimbledon. Same categories, but with different answers for some of them. So I think Sabalenka is going to do better than Rybakina at Wimbledon this year because I think Rybakina's got a really tough draw. I think Sabalenka's got a manageable draw, and also the fact that Sabalenka wasn't allowed to play last year might give her that extra fuel and that extra motivation to want to do well. So I think Sabalenka's going to outperform Rybakina this year. So the players I picked for the best qualies, I'm going to go with Andreeva, who was the same pick that I picked at the French Open. And I'm going to go with Otter, who's actually proven that he can play on grass. He's had some good results on grass. And also, he's a really big hitting German player. So I reckon with that big serve, he might be able to go far out of the qualies as well. So for the best country, I'm going to go with Russia this time. They were the ones who actually did the best at the French Open. They've got the most players in the draw. And like I said, I think they've got added motivation, especially on the women's side, because there's a lot of good grass court players on the women's side that are Russian. Kudermetova, Alexandrova, Kazakina have all proven over the last couple of weeks that they're very capable on grass. So I'm going to go with Russia to have the best success at Wimbledon. So this is a new category. We've changed this with the fastest serve to the most aces for the tournament. I'm going to go with Sabalenka. I think she's going to do well here, and she's going to be the biggest server. And I'm going to go with Hurkacz on the men's side. He's hit more aces than anybody this entire year, and I reckon he's going to play a lot of tie breaks, hit a lot of aces. So for this one, I've got to go with Djokovic. I mean, he's the proven Wimbledon champion. And look, Alcaraz might have a good run, even though he has a pretty tricky draw. I'm going to go with Djokovic to do better than Alcaraz this year at Wimbledon. The players that I think might go on an unseeded run, making it to the fourth round or better, I'm going to go with the fairy tale stories. Milos Raonic, who's back for the first time at Wimbledon for a couple of years, and Elena Svitolina, who did so well at the French Open, and also the two players that have a little bit of a story behind them as well. So for the top 10 upsets for the tournament, I've got to go with Casper Ruud. He doesn't look like he really wants to play on the grass anyway, so I think he's going to lose in the first week out of the top 10. And I'm going to go with Jessica Pegula. She hasn't looked great on the grass, and also with that injury concern, I'm a little bit worried that she might not be physically able to play the matches in the first week. So I'm going to go with Pegula and Ruud to lose early at Wimbledon this year. So the French Open, this was one of the most successful categories, and I somehow picked the two players that did really well unexpectedly as dark horses. This time I'm going to go with Keys to go far at the tournament. She just won a tournament last week on grass, so I'm going to go with Keys, and I'm going to pick Korda, who really talked up a big game. Unfortunately, couldn't really back it up against Alcaraz, but I reckon he's going to get back to that form in Australia that he did at the start of the year and beating Medvedev in Australia, of course. I reckon he's going to be a dark horse as well at this event, making the quarterfinals or better. So this one's really tough. Swiatek, Jabeur, Jabeur's the better player, but she has the tougher draw. And Swiatek, proven on grass a little bit over the last week. I'm going to go with Iga Swiatek to do better than Jabeur this year, just based on the draw alone. For my hot take, my unpopular opinion for Wimbledon 2023, I reckon we're going to have a lot of randoms in the quarterfinals and massive carnage in the first week. A lot of top 10 players losing in that first week. Maybe someone like Tsitsipas or Fritz, who haven't been playing well lately, or on the women's side, players like Pegula and Garcia, who are under an injury cloud. I reckon in the second half of the tournament, we're going to have a lot of unseeded players, and we're going to have a massive carnage in that first week. So picking the semi-finals is going to be one of the hardest predictions to pick because I found out that the hard way at the French Open, only getting 1 out of the 4 for each of the men and the women. But I'm going to go with Swiatek versus Vekic in one of the semi-finals, and I'm going to go with Sabalenka versus Kvitova in the other. On the men's side, I'm going to go with Djokovic versus Sinner, and the other half of the draw, I'm going to go with Medvedev taking on Rune. Now, they're all top 10 players, so maybe not the worst pick, except for Vekic, who I think is a little bit random, but I'm going to go with those players to make it deep into the semi-finals. And the final category, who is going to win Wimbledon the most? I mean, everyone's got to pick, right? I'm going to go with Djokovic because that's, again, the boring answer, but also the obvious answer. And I'm not going to try and make this too silly and be like, I'm going to pick someone random. I'm going to go with Djokovic. He's won this tournament so many times. And on the women's side, I'm going to go with Sabalenka. I thought she would win this last year. She wasn't able to get the chance, so I'm going to go with her again this year. Sabalenka, Djokovic, Wimbledon champions. That's my pick. Let me know down in the comments below. What are your predictions for Wimbledon in each of the categories? I would love to hear your ideas. Of course, we're going to be putting out a reaction to these predictions, so we'll see if I can do better than the French Open. To be honest, I think I set the bar too high at the French, so I don't think I'm going to do too well at Wimbledon. I'm not expecting big things, but who knows? I mean, sometimes you get lucky. But let me know down in the comments below, who are your predictions for Wimbledon in 2023?